So now that we have everything working, we can talk a little bit about folder structure and how to structure our code in the best way or in the most common way. So let's go into our code. So we have lots of code in app.js, and there's a lot of code here that runs inside Meteor is client, and we have Meteor is server. But Meteor also supports folders, particular folders that tells Meteor if this is client or server. So first of all, let's add a folder that's called client. Inside that folder, everything that runs, Meteor knows that it's the client. So it's like wrapping all this folder inside Meteor is client. So actually all of our code here, or almost all of our code here, can go into the client. Now inside the client, we can create a folder called lib. The lib folder will run first. Meteor knows the lib folder, and everything that we want to run before everything else will be run here. So here we want to run our defining the Angular application and bootstrapping our application. So let's move the app.js here. Now, also let's add another file called roots.js and move all the roots inside there under the client. So let's take all the codes of the roots and move it here. The next thing we want to move is the controllers. So I'm creating a directory that is called parties. All the client code that is particular to parties and parties manipulation, I'm putting under that particular subject. So let's call it parties. And then under that directory you have controllers. And we have specific views, which are the templates that we're using. So first of all, let's create a file for our parties list controller. I'm using camel case. I'm combining here a structure that is also by subject and also a little bit like the Angular yeoman structure. So let's create parties list controller and let's move our party list controller in there. Then let's create another file. It's called party details.js, and let's move our party controller in there. Now our parties Mongo collection needs to run on both client and server, so we need to move it out of the client folder. So let's create another folder where we define all of our model, all of our data objects. So let's call it model. Model is not a special name to a folder inside Meteor, so everything inside will run automatically on both client and server. So let's add a file here called parties.js. Let's move the parties definition into there. Now we have a code here that is running on the server. So instead of putting it in an if statement, we can just create a server folder and place what we want inside. Now let's just define another directory just for the convenience of startup. Everything we want to run in startup will be run there. Let's open a file called load parties.js. and place this code inside that file. Now let's go back to app.js, remove the Meteor is client because we know that we are inside the client, and also remove the Meteor is server. And now we just have our views. So our views are supposed to run inside the client. So let's move index.html under client. And let's move the parties list and the parties details under the views of parties. Now you can see that we haven't changed or written any reference changes, because Meteor automatically scans our files inside the project folder and automatically adds everything. So we haven't needed to change any references inside index.html or stuff like that that you usually do in other frameworks. So basically now everything needs to work the same. Let's check that. Our app is still running. Let's go to our client and run. Go to home. Let's add a new party. New party 5 description. And we're adding it. Let's go to the Safari. Go back home. Go to party. Let's change the description to a new description. Go back here, and we have the new description here. Let's remove this party. Is removed also here. We don't have anything if we go here, and nothing.